All right. Good morning. I'd just like to start with this slide here, just to give an overview of the Department of Public Services. We have been able to move in a couple of directions, dividing some work over the last year. I'd like to announce that we are starting a preventative maintenance program for facilities this week. So we're finally there. A new staff member came on. We were able to divide what we had between streets and facilities and motor fleet and parks. And so now we're set up a little bit better than we had been in the past. So again, Mark has been handling capital projects and projects village-wide, and that's come in handy. We have divided and promoted each of our old supervisors to superintendents. That's worked well. And then we've added to be able to separate facilities crew with a crew lead from the streets crew lead. And that's been a good change, and that's been in effect for almost 10 months now. I would like to say that we have worked from promoting from within. All our new hires and promotions within the last year or so have come from either people already working in respect to the island, on the island, or on a vessel that brings people to the island, and also promoted our certified people, our operators and responsible charge in the wastewater and water side from in-house positions. There's an industry challenge nationwide of filling those positions, and especially statewide. In North Carolina, average age of an ORC for sewer and water is 59. Gives you any idea of how that group is aging out. There's a lot of municipalities that are starting to grow their own in-house, and we're one of them. Next slide, please. Again, frequent conversation is the 80-90 treatment capacity rule. One time we had a permit for 400,000. That was changed due to phosphorus and nitrogen issues. Since I've been here, it's been 300,000 gallons per day. The reason I wanted to mention that is because of PTC 8. Recently, we had a flow. Our highest flow one day was just over 850,000 gallons in one day. And people say, well, how could you do that? Well, originally, the original wastewater plant was built for 400,000 gallons per day. And with 2.5 peaking, that was right 1 million gallons a day is what it should be able to flow through the plant. So being 26 years later, almost working on its way to 30 years later, from the plant being built, it was able to handle that kind of flow. Now that is again with abbreviated or reduced processing time, but we still were processing mostly rainwater at the time. So it worked out well. We didn't have too many problems. The biggest thing that happened was with the new electrical infrastructure, the power didn't go out as usual. So we had the continuum flows to the plant. And the only way we could control that is by lift stations and grinder pumps. All the grinder pumps, a number of them have a home run that comes back to the plant, but a number of them also go to lift stations. We couldn't shut down the ones that didn't go through a lift station and came in as a home run, but we could shut all the others down through turning all the lift stations off and then bringing them back on to into service as slow. That helped us control the flow of the plant and kept us from the water breaching over the top. We did come in within 6 inches of the top of the plant, but felt that it was managed. Even when we got that high, felt comfortable that we weren't going to have an overflow. As you can see here, our 80% of our daily permitted amounts 240,000 gallons, and then the 90% is 270. 2020, we had 2 months that went over the 240 and triggered the 80% rule for the 2T rule that put us into design for the wastewater treatment plant expansion. We also had the following year in 21, we had July and August, and then in June of 22, we had July and August, and then in June of 23, we had just July. And then last year, we didn't have any days over 80%. And you'll see that in an upcoming slide. Anybody have any questions about that?
So when it triggered, so the totals we're looking at that, that's per,
We triggered that 2T rule in 20
right,
during COVID.
right, for a whole month or just a
Uh,
few days?
Just all we had to do is break it for
What?
average monthly daily.
Okay, that's what I
That's what
thought.
we did.
Okay,
And you
okay,
can see that in
Gotcha.
July, 254.
yep,
Well, we did in June and July, actually, 245 and 250.
right, but barely, yeah,
So that's what triggered the 2T.
okay,
Next slide, please. Here you can see the percentage, you can see that 80% in the top slide for 2020. And then you see that we've come down to 72% for 24. Also over here, you'll see the notes off to the side. Our average is for 3 months. I have that document up here. You'll see it in a minute, where we've agreed with the state that we would look at our highest 3 months of the year because of being a seasonal facility. Though we have a year-round population, we looked at that year-round population and we only gauged our highs by that. We would never exceed the 80-20 rule. And in all fairness, we could exceed it in the summertime and then have to all of a sudden have a moratorium on top of us. We want to do that. So what we do is we guide ourselves with the highest 3 months of the year, which is June, July, and August. We've been working on the premise that there's about 35 REUs per year. This year we broke that, we're at 42. Just for general knowledge, but the reason we exceeded that was because of the current commercial development and those additional REUs, or we would probably been under the 35. We are 90, we're approaching the 90%. The next slide, well, one other thing to mention, yesterday, Tony talked about this last bullet here, expansion permitting window. We originally thought it was gonna be 18 months. Now we're looking at 12 to 13 months. And then the construction window originally was 24 to 30 months. Now we're looking at 20 months. So entirety, we're about 35 months out. That's what he said yesterday. Next slide, please. This is the last 5 years. This is 2020. You can see the trend line, which is the dotted line. The linear average is going down. And you can also see the average solid purple line going down. Right line again is at 90%, and the gold line is 80%, as you can see down below in the key. We're going to start reporting average flows for the wastewater treatment plant monthly, as requested. But this is our start, just to give you an idea of where we are, where we've spent since COVID. Any questions?
Yeah, just permitting. So we have to, at 80%, we have to be under design. 90%, we have to be under contract.
Awarded bid.
Awarding bid.
Construction.
So hypothetically, we don't hit 90% for 5 years. We're sitting on our design. I mean, we're not, we pulled a trigger, but
And you could say.
because we had to, but
We pulled the trigger back and, well, you had to pull it prior to be getting here, but really concentrated in 22 because we thought our numbers were going up.
right. And when I'm looking at 24, we're back, we're lower than we were in 20.
Right.
oh, yeah,
So the urgency of, we're looking at expansion, but the expansion might not happen for a year.
Correct. And the urgency now is, or was to continue, was to be shovel ready in case some monies came along.
Got
that
it.
are available. So that was the motivation there. And now we will be shovel ready a year from now, next spring. And if some infrastructure monies do come possible that require you to be shovel ready, we would be with permits.
Got it.
The questions?
So JP, so you have to have the permit in hand to be shovel ready.
Correct.
You have to have a bid that's been approved,
Correct.
correct?
And awarded.
And awarded.
Yes. at 90%.
How long, but you have to have a permit in hand before you can seek bids, correct?
Correct.
How long is a permit good for?
Generally 5 years.
Okay.
Have to check, but 5 years.
So we could get the permit and sit for a year or 2 or 3 as these numbers keep coming down.
Yeah, I would suggest you look at the monetary value of that,
Right.
if it would be worth it or not.
As the price goes up, the longer you wait. Got it. Fair enough. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Here you can see this is the letter between McKim and Creed and NCDEQ, formerly DWQ. And this is stipulating that we're looking at June, July, and August as our controlling months, if you will, for our permitting flows. Next slide, please. This is a current REU count. I give this in my annual presentation each year. Just like to point out, 1,314 residential customers, and the difference between that and this and the 1,477 is the 163 commercial REUs for businesses here on the island. Again, currently we're approximately 88 million gallons annually. And if we look at 2462, which is 2,462 REUs, we'd be looking at approximately 150 million gallons annually. And that's what Jim was talking about yesterday, about us being able to make sure that we're being most efficient with what we have and then see where we'll move forward in new well fields, technology. Eventually, maybe, we've been pulling from the freshwater aquifer lens on the top. There are other options. We can go deep, desalinate. So there are other options in the future if we need them. And we also have the interconnect. I like to keep that interconnect flow between 20 and 30%, keep that percentage same. And I've shared that with Brunswick County. That's where we'd like to stay moving forward. And of course, it's always there in case of emergency, which has come in handy. As far as distribution system goes, we're fully automatic now. We have 3 high-speed distribution pumps. As all of you know, we don't have an elevated tank because we don't have to comply to that rule because of the interconnect with the county. But we do have to get the water to the taps. We do that by the high-speed pumps. High-speed pumps that now have been all, they operate off variable frequency drives. They can ramp up and down to keep the water pressure. When I arrived a couple of years ago, the pumps used to come on and off. And we'd have a high number of starts each day on each of those pumps. Now our pumps run 6 hours, 6 hours, and 12 hours. And then our newest pump, the one working 12 hours. And then they cycle through those hourly windows. And then we have plans for expanding one more pump to where the old fire pump was. That would give us 4 distribution pumps. Then it'll be 6, 6, 6, and 6.
Yeah, the well cleaning that Jim was bringing up. Have we been doing that within our operating budget, or is this something new? Or that was the first time I was hearing about that yesterday.
We wanted to work towards preventative maintenance programs system-wide in all our systems and all our platforms. We're starting with facilities, but it goes for wells, it goes for our lift stations. We should be doing with everything, vehicles, and our first step is facilities. Our next step is going to be wells.
Okay.
I think his question was.
Yeah, the question-
Do you have in the current operating budget, or are these going to be additional tasks, or do we need to allocate additional?
We're
budget?
working on a budgeted item last year for what he's doing now, and it will be continually in the budgets going forward.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry, can I ask another question? You mentioned the water we get from Brunswick County, or keeping that in the
20 to 30%.
30%. Is that factored in when you're showing our, like, if we went back a slide when we were hitting 89%? Are we hitting 80 or 90% with them supplying 20 or 30% of our water? Or is that not in there?
Can't really look at it that way because we're talking about the wastewater side.
Okay,
And if you look at the water side, the wastewater side, you'd think there would be more
yeah,
correlation between the two, but sometimes there's not.
okay, all right, that's what I
So
was
it's a
asking.
different, they're two different conversations.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask, so we can't artificially manipulate that as far as how much water we take from them to delay or defer the wastewater side.
Not the wastewater side.
Okay, all right,
Because all the wastewater stays here.
Yep.
That water just comes onto the island.
got it,
And then what our limiting factor is there is the pipe size.
got it.
So it's an 8-inch.
Yep.
HDPE pipe, so we're limited on flow. And again, when you're thinking about any of our stormwater discharges, our lift stations, but especially our stormwater discharges, when you're thinking about our ocean outflows, our limitation there is the size of the pipes.
Right.
No matter how big the pump you get, you're only gonna pump so much water through a certain pipe size. So at some point, if you go to a pump too large, then you have to replace the pipes.
Sure.
Next slide, please. Okay, water capacity, again, I've covered most of this. I had this slide in here, to remind me about PFAS. We have done PFAS testing. I have, again, I think as most of you know, attended all the state workshops. They've been in Wilmington, DEQ has offered. And we have done testing on the water side predominantly. I'm not gonna say we haven't done any wastewater side. We have done wastewater samples at the plant, at the wastewater treatment plant, just to see what was coming through. We've done that in the weir in the tertiary treatment area. So just before it leaves the plant. So we haven't done testing in lagoons, we haven't done sediment testing, but we know that we have high concentrations of both PFOA and PFOS at the tertiary treatment area.
Which naturally then would mean it's out there. So the issue we talked about is real. Okay.
But if you think about it, it's, you know, it's in everything. It's in packaging, it's in cosmetics. So you take a shower, you rinse something in the sink. It comes from a lot of different sources, not only the source water.
Yeah, no, I get that, but yeah, okay.
So but we have a high concentration in our wastewater.
But so going back before, right, we're doing a better job of testing at the tap to make sure that like we're not putting it out through people's tap water. Well, this is just another tap though, right?
It
And
is.
in that tap, we are knowingly putting in,
And that's why
highly
we did
concentrated.
testing there.
yeah, I
We
got it.
didn't test the outflow from the reject water from RO, but it's only a deduction.
Yeah,
Here where we are there.
I understand. Perfect. Thank you. for
We
that.
did ask for state funding to remediate both on the wastewater side and the water side, but that grant was not successful, but we're continuing.
Yeah, please do. We're gonna need that.
And that every community is challenged with that. You were reading about it in Maine, every community's challenge of how you're gonna get rid of your, you know, your PFAS. Because we collect it, we concentrate it, and then we want to get rid of it. Next slide, please. Well, the next slide is, I'm gonna wait on this, but I did want to, can we go down to utilities capital needs? I think it's towards the end. Right there. Now I gave away my whole slideshow, but. Just to talk about utilities needs, you know, we're looking at replacing the vans. We have gotten one pickup from public safety. Thank you for that. These are just some other items on here that we'll be looking for. Confined space oxygen meter to go in confined spaces, which are primarily the lift station areas. And then the Liberty pumps for lift stations. The E1 and Barnes controls are for the grinder pumps. We're looking for a reverse osmosis cleaning skid. We haven't had a skid replacement in a number of years. That helps us clean the ROs in the water plant. We are trying to replace the balance of concrete in-ground tanks that we have that we've used from the old low pressure system. We converted to wet wells for grinder pumps. We have no way of keeping those secure in a flood situation. And there's 40 or so of them. So we're looking here at the 42 heritage floodplain. Those are for wet wells and the pumps that go with it. And so what we do is we want to take those 42, want to get a contractor, want to bid it out, Want to replace those 40 or so old concrete tanks with the floodplain wet well, so that we can control I during a high water situation. And just so you all know, all new construction, we're going with the Heritage floodplain wet well systems. So going forward, we'll have on all the new wet wells, be able to have these cap sealed wet wells with snorkels coming out of them. And that'll be island wide.
Something like 42 replacements. Execution of something like that is a 2-month process, 5-year process.
I say comfortably, we probably do it over 2 years.
Okay,
20 a year.
And then, and we could do it in 1 year, we'd have to farm it out and it would be a busy year.
right.
You're gonna leave the old tank there and just put the new wet well.
Probably
Next.
properly decommission the old tank, which is cleaning, filling with sand.
Yep.
And then probably putting the other one right next to it.
Okay,
Wet well risers and snorkels, that's for this year, and we're starting in the Kiltier Trail area and moving east. Or northeast, if you will, across the island, because we know where our hotspots are. Looking at a water distribution infrared flow meter, to know exactly what we have going out into the distribution system. We don't have a meter at that point in the system right now. And as we asked for last year, it hasn't gone away. We're asking for a roll-off truck. And when I do my next presentation, there's some slides and some trade-offs and some dollars and cents you can see that or some monies we've been spending that we can possibly do that. Part storage is for water, and then RO membrane replacement. Any questions? So all things will bring to the budget.
the part storage that's for existing parts or day-to-day parts? Where I'm going with this is when we're talking about pre-buying elements for the wastewater treatment plant expansion. Is that the storage shed for that? Or do
It
we?
can be put in there.
Okay,
Part of it is because of supply line issues. We've had them in the past. We're trying to be more
proactive.
proactive about buying things we know we do need. We've
Right.
always done that with pumps that we had in the ground. This is more with control modules and fittings and things that we've seen VFDs now. Now, I would just like to say the variable frequency drives that we're using, we're eliminating single phase equipment. We're going to 3-phase equipment. Well, why are you doing that? 3-phase equipment is more durable, it can be rebuilt, and it has less electrical benefits. So we're trying to get to the point where we could be have more fail-safes put in place, and that's one approach. So yes, part storage could be for stuff coming up for the wastewater plant, but also for parts that we like to have on site for our current systems. Okay. We can back up to Public Works. We've been talking about the waste stream on the island for a while, ever since I arrived. I'd like to talk a little bit more about it today. I'm going to talk about a different aspect of it today, but I didn't want to leave out what we've been looking at annually. And that's recycling and solid waste and donations. And since we've started tracking this, there hasn't been a whole lot of change. It's increased, but it's increased with the population, it hasn't increased any other way, really. We've been able to share our thoughts with the community, especially commercial entities, about through our tax base, we take care of our residents. Residents, we pay for solid waste. And typically in a municipality, you know, your residential waste is paid for that way, but your commercial is not. Being on the island, we're kind of a unique situation, and a lot of our waste streams, our commercial waste stream, our residential waste stream kind of converged on each other. So we've been trying to separate those. And we've had some accomplishments in that and separating those, that's worked to keep these numbers down. What I'd like to talk about today is paint, pesticides, batteries, and pressure tanks. Hazardous waste. We've recently got some numbers to get rid of what we do have on site. What we have in site is an area where it shouldn't be. It's in proximity to our wells that we need to protect, and we need to remove that. Once we remove it, we don't really have a place in Public Works that we can store any kind of waste like that. What I'd like to recommend to council is that going forward, we have either 2 or 4 annual pickup days a year. We have a contractor that comes in and manages those days. And on those days only, residents can bring in paints, unused pesticides, pressure tanks, and batteries. Other than that, again, just what I said previously, commercial stream needs to take care of the commercial stream, then we'll take care of the residential stream. And we need to continue to separate those and to have the commercial side responsible for their waste stream.
Just so I understand exactly what you said. So right now, you have paint cans, you just bring them over. I mean, that's what people are doing. It's being stored near a well, bad idea. And now what you're saying is like, no, we're gonna have, hey, June 23rd, that's the day you bring your paint cans.
Yes.
So people
We're
basically,
gonna come in, we're gonna clean everything up. It's all gonna go away.
Right.
Can't take anything else in.
so the daily option to bring stuff will be gone. It'll be on specific times. This is when it'll happen.
There'll be events.
Okay.
2 events a year, 4 events, whatever we decide, whatever we think works best. And then there'll be a cost for those, and then I'll put it
Got
in the budget.
What happens, what about those second homeowners who aren't here on any of those 4 days you're gonna have that event? What do they do?
That's something we need to talk about. Because we don't have any options.
Right.
We're not compliant.
Got it. But it could it be a week of collection?
We could probably look at multiple days. I don't know if that could get expensive.
We got it.
We have to hold the crew over.
Right.
It is, right now, the company we're looking at is the same company that manages it for Brunswick County.
Mhm.
So there is some savings in
Mhm.
using them. They are a Virginia company.
Mhm.
But there is some savings because they're already coming to the county.
Got it.
JP, in my experience elsewhere, there were specified days for disposal of chemicals and then another set of 4 days for electronics and a different set of 4 days for tires. So I wonder if we're gonna get somebody, if they want to deal with metals, tires, electronics, chemicals and paints.
With the volume that we have, it would be the most inexpensive route for us would be, and it's manageable to do them all in the same day.
Well, that's fine too, but just a thought that instead of just thinking chemicals and paints, we do the other stuff too.
They can't. Electronics, it's a little bit easier to move.
Well, I guess it depends on the size of, the TVs are getting bigger and bigger.
We're getting more, but, yes, we'll make sure we do that. And one other thing I wanted, before I moved out of utility, I was asking Mark to say something about the cross connection. Before we move too far along out of utilities, I'd like to talk to, just give you a quick update about what's going on with cross connection. Cross connection is backflow devices. It's the device between a usable source of water and the water system. And the reason that we have a cross connection program is to protect the public water side and not let anything that could be used on the customer side to get back in and be drawn back into the system.
So less of a budgetary thing, it's more just of an informational share, is that we have been working for the last year on a cross connection program, which is required. The village being a utility owner, a water utility owner, we're required to have a program where we notify customers that have a device either at their residence because of irrigation or business. We notify them that they have it and that they have to have it inspected. And so they'd hire a private contractor to have it inspected, and that contractor would report back to us, let us know that they've passed. Fortunately, the software we already use for some other things in public services can accommodate that. We've already budgeted for and got the information uploaded from Edmunds, our billing software. So we're ready to go and we're gonna send out letters and work with the owners of these devices to let them know it's coming down the pipe, but you might hear something and of course we'll work with parents to get out good public information. Not a huge impact, but something.
Great. 2020, the state came out with some updated cross-connection laws and statutes and administrative codes. They were slow to put those into practice or into use because of everything that's happened. But they are stepping up the game now, and our annual sanitation inspections is when they come over and inspect our water system annually. They are asking about cross-connection. It's only a matter of time before they start enforcing. So, trying to catch up. Any questions about cross-connection?
I'm sorry, I was still on the other, the chemicals, I mean, I get, obviously, there's a potential hazard of it sort of leaching into the ground by a well. Is there a way to safely store it?
The way the statute's written is 1,000 feet. We don't have 1,000 two wells that are adjacent to the public works property.
Gotcha.
So to answer your first part of your question, yes.
Yeah.
But seeing we're in this special use area,
Right.
we don't have that.
Okay. I just would echo what I think you were getting at, Scott. Going down to 2 days a year is a dramatic takeaway from
Yeah.
folks that need that. And so we'll have to think through that. Not that you have,
Multiple
but
days.
yeah, no, I get it.
I just would like to know if the council site.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's just hard for the second homeowner here or something
Yeah.
that, you know, has accumulated that stuff
They
over
don't-
time.
They don't know.
They might not be here on an odd Saturday in May.
They don't know their calendar for next year.
Yeah.
Set that schedule, so, it's gonna be a problem for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this isn't different than, I can't pick up my mail. You know, it's a, you know, second
The
home.
mail's being held for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can get to the mail when you get to it.
If I could take my stuff somewhere
Yeah.
and then have a friend deliver it.
Yeah.
Or somebody else
Put some
deliver it.
cans of paint in the closet and.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, you have an issue, and it's, this is just one of these things that, is this something we need to solve? Or we need to say, look, this is a situation, you need to figure out how you're gonna get that stuff there.
Is there a big volume of it? I mean, I'm wondering if we
Besides,
a problem.
yeah, there's a fairly good volume of it. Do I have volume?
You ever go and look at it, the tires and
Yeah.
paints and stuff, they're accumulating over there. It's quite a lot.
We
Yeah.
started out, we're about 6 pallets a year. But we have totes that we put the paint in. We probably take 2 totes off 6 times a year. 240 gallons in each tote.
Okay,
Yeah, because they always leave you the paint that they didn't use.
Yeah.
And then you keep it because you need it, and then it's like too old to use.
So you might want to, yeah, which you don't ever use, correct?
Which you don't ever use,
So
but
you might want to
you
keep
can
the
throw it
paint
away.
code and take a picture of it and have them take the can with them.
there
That
you
would help
go.
us out immensely.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Just one other mention down the bottom, it says man hours, increased duties include impact from split shift. It was just mostly that was speaking about, public works helping other departments. And we were almost at 1,000 hours 3 years ago, almost 800 hours last year, down at 300 hours this year. So that's decreasing. We've been able to allow us to spend more time on the normal things that we do. So that's great. And we're getting more efficient at that. And we'll continue to work on that. I just wanted to share that. Next slide, please. And the reason for that too is when we start talking about landscaping of parks and right of ways and things like that, I don't want to have that discussion. This is the roll-off truck. I mentioned earlier about what we spend traditionally a year, about 200,000 a year on waste disposal of 40 yards and 30-yard containers outside of what we have, and then about another $120,000 a year on sludge removal. 2 things that the roll-off truck could do for us. The cost is about $280. We split that over a couple different programs, 140 apiece. And if we look at the containers, you'll see on the public works wish list. There's also some containers, which is about another 40,000 to buy the physical containers themselves. So this was something that we had on our vision board, and we continue to, and I'm bringing it back again during the budget season this year. Any questions? Next slide, please. Another topic that's come up is paving. We're not done any significant paving this year. We do patching and in-house repairs, but down below, these are a list of the 12 highest ranking areas that need attention. So I just thought I'd share those with you. We do have a 5-year plan. We have a evaluation program that's industry recognized. We go through and evaluate all the streets and roads and streets on the island. And again, these are the top ones that need some attention.
JP,
We
when you,
don't have that.
I'm sorry, when you do this work and you decide what needs work, are you also looking at a schedule for digging up the road? Like if you're installing a new pump or something that would damage new pavement, so that you're coordinating this?
Or this review's done annually, so it picks those things up. We don't add them in as they happen, if that's what you're asking.
Because I was thinking about the new pump, as some kind of a switch that was put in Federal Road right at the corner of Everteach to keep water flowing to the markets and all around here.
That will be done by a temporary patch.
Right.
It's doing it as the compaction is good.
Mhm, and weather.
Generally for the little bit that was compacted in lifts and will be ready sooner than later as far as being temporarily patched, and we'll do that in-house.
But so we wouldn't want to be paving Federal Road in advance of doing that, whatever equipment you put in there. And if are you going to put equipment on South Bald Head Wine, for example, that would push? You see what I'm saying? I wouldn't want to pave it and then dig it up.
Well, there's a couple different issues there. When we have main breaks, we don't really know when those are gonna happen, so those have to be an exception. But like, say, right now, we're redistricting water. So we're looking at water districts on the island so that when we have a need to shut water down in one area, we're not shutting the whole island down anymore. That's our overall goal in that program is to district things so we can limit the shutdowns. We know we're gonna be working then, we're gonna have to put valves in the road and stuff, so that we can identify. But the unknowns are when we have a repair that needs to be made or a line replacement that we're not aware of.
I understand. I just wanted to see if we were looking at things we know and coordinating them too.
Right now, what we've been doing is we've been looking at maintenance and then looking at things that just repairs that have come up. And we try to cold patch those and get them compacted and cold patch them as soon as possible. And then we include them in the next paving project as standalone to jump out to move one street or road to the top. The formula would have to do that. We don't do it. There's a formula, there's like 40 different characteristic points that the system looks at to categorize which road needs the most work. And we keep that system because it's consistent.
Thank you.
Is that in order of needs?
Priority, yes.
Okay,
So I'm seeing South Bald Head Wine, that's a pretty long road. I'm seeing West Bald Head Wine, that's a pretty long road. I'm seeing North Bald Head, that's a pretty long road. Seeing Federal Road, that's a pretty long road. I mean, so, and then Steve Bonnet, so in 5 years, we're gonna be doing all that paving?
Depends on how we're funded. We're gonna ask for it.
Okay,
yeah,
It's coming.
got it.
yeah, so I've always had a problem with this. I look at, so these are priorities. Well, this is how much money we have, so we're gonna do this.
Mhm. Yeah.
As opposed to going, we need $13.5 million over the course of the next 5 years to do what needs to be done.
Got it.
And that should be our budget. I mean, we should be planning that this money is going, it's required as opposed to making a decision year by year.
Well, and I know we're gonna talk a little bit about the budgeting process.
That's gonna happen later on.
I would encourage us to start thinking about this as something that we think about doing in a project fund or something like that exists beyond any of us, right? So that a council doesn't make a short-sighted decision and say like, let's zero that out. Let's just make that, same with the timber bridge, right? Those boards wear out every year. We need to start. Regardless of what the
Now you're
dollars,
talking about-
regardless what the dollars are.
Yeah, we're talking
We
about.
need to get that into a project,
There
right?
should be a budget item every year, knowing that that's where, hey, the roads need to be totally repaved by this time period, ongoing, just like the beach, you know, and so therefore that shouldn't matter what council is here.
Right.
And if we don't spend the money that year, it rolls right into the next year and it's a bigger project.
Do the beach access is the Brett Fund.
And so I think that's, you know,
So
Zach, that's what I think, yeah, but yeah, that's where I think we should be going.
Yeah, because I'm gonna ask there be some sort of provisions each year for the timber bridge.
Yeah, same thing. We know it's gonna happen. We shouldn't have, you know, zero and make the decision that year every time.
very good.
Next slide, please. Contractor services, things are moving down there. They're moving a little bit slower than we hoped, but, this is just a hand drawing of where we're going. We have improved some of the parking areas. This area, as you can see, has been cleaned out and prepped for this basin right here. This basin is not gonna be rectangular. It's gonna be more free-forming to take up less space. But we are working on this and it'll all be done before season. Hopefully, we were hoping to be done, at the beginning of this month, but it looks like it's gonna be the beginning of next.
In the long run, that parking between public safety and the contractor service yard building, that's on the grass right there.
That's right.
Yeah. Is that always intended to be parking or is this just overflow right now?
Well, if you notice, we've cut that back a little bit. We don't park them up in the hill anymore. We
Right.
Park them through here. Fence ends right here and comes down like this. We've got a little bit of a blind there. We have the hill behind us. We'd like to continually use that for car parking longer term. That's the question.
That is the question.
But with not parking high in the ridge and parking in this,
It looks better than it did,
we're working.
for sure.
But we can't afford to give up really much parking.
Right. No, I got it.
That's right.
Isn't that where the
I
retention?
have to say, we're all been very disappointed on the whole property's been looking. It doesn't look good. And we're trying to get there. It's just been, for some reason, very slow happening. We're still not there.
Well, and it's difficult stuff, right? It's, you know, it's not for lack of effort. We know that
It gets used every day.
every day, but
So-
sloppy cars and paint stain, whatever, right? Like it's a tough task.
Doesn't we have the recycling bins, cardboard and stuff at that area? What is that drawing representing now?
That's the same.
Oh, okay,
Those are the bins.
okay,
right there.
gotcha.
On it a little bit.
These are the two compactors. Now, when we're talking about a new structure for public works, that's over in this area. Previously, it was proposed here in early stormwater drawings. We're looking at moving it back about 30, 40 feet into this area. In any of this area, not particularly one. Then we're opening this area up between the two properties. Where the gate will be. Now this is fence. So soon will we be able to close off access to this area. We have a well here, by the way, and a well here. Two wells.
When you're talking about the area between the building and the parking, you know, you were just flashing at it, right there.
Yes,
You're,
we've been cleaning that out if you've noticed.
yeah, I've been back. Are you cleaning it out? Are the trees disappearing or just cleaning out under the trees?
We're gonna open up a couple areas here, here. The trees, the big trees will stay, but all the understory will go.
I just, you know, my, just from an aesthetic point of view, driving down Edward Teach, you know, the view right down into that whole thing, and now we're talking, well, we're gonna clear it up even more. There's some landscaping that
So looking in from this direction,
I'm talking, no, not coming into the yard at all. I'm talking about the normal, you know, golf cart traffic going in front of public safety. And at some points, you're just looking through the entire contractor service yard and having a vegetative buffer of some kind. I just would like to see that thrown into the mix somewhere too. Out there or even near the back by
We're just cleaning this up because it was just, we had to, it hadn't been cleaned out in years.
yeah,
We had to reshape. This is a stormwater containment area.
right.
Just it was so overgrown. We couldn't get in there, so that's why we cleaned that up. Next is gonna be the tank area. Really need to clean that up. Take the old fence out of there that's been there.
Yeah, I'm kind of I'm recognizing the need to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at how do we introduce a buffer so that, you know, your need's gonna happen. I got it. But I'd like to supplement what we're doing in some way to create a buffer.
It needs to be more hidden. It's just,
Yeah.
That's,
Oh, I understand.
yeah, go to any major waste facility, anywhere you haul crap to. And it'll be landscaped in the front where the gate is. And then once you enter the property, can't put lipstick on a pig.
No.
So buffering along Edward Teach to hide, yeah, build a plan with some berms, maybe
Yeah.
some plantings or something, just along Edward Teach.
Well, I think,
would say on Federal too, toward the east end of it, because we did do some berms, but then there's a section that's still pretty open.
Driving down this way, you can look into the property.
yeah, my thought process is more along where we have a handful of palm trees at the end of the public safety right there. You know, even landscaping closer to the public safety, that area that's wide open there, if we can,
Got
that'd
it.
be great.
I got it.
You say natural or fencing?
I'm saying natural, but, you know. Anyway,
That doesn't
We can
mean,
easily plant that area more, that's.
yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, and I just, yeah, I think there should be, you need to do what you're doing. I think there's a whole nother thought process that has to be added to what you're doing. And
We've identified it, we know that what it is, and we've been concentrating on shaping this rather than any blinds or anything.
Sure.
They could happen simultaneously, but we just been focusing on this right
yeah, making
Got
it
it.
reasonable.
now because of the money available and everything else.
Yep, get it.
So once the new gate is up there, then people wanting to dump in those dumpsters will have the
Come to
current
our-
restrictions. Yep, okay.
And just, talking a little bit about that is, they have regular trash pickup, and I know sometimes people have to drop more stuff off. Recycling will be outside the gate,
Right.
cardboard will be outside the gate, actually dumping, and it's because we have everything dumped in those compactors. We get asphalt shingles, we get furniture, we get wood. It's not meant for that.
Right.
And then GFL has been very good to work with us on that. Our guys spend time pulling stuff out of there every morning and putting it in the right. We have a metal container back here at Public Works that, people can bring. And we also have that program with the head for getting rid of things we use for that. Right now, the paint area is right back in here. Driven in there lately. I invite you to go back there and take a look. So,
But things like the furniture and that kind of stuff,
that goes to the Connex that's back in here, number 2.
okay.
And we try to promote, when furniture comes off, maybe furniture can leave. We've tried to promote, people to do other things with the furniture, especially if they're part of a management program and it's a rental house and the furniture needs to be replaced every so often. It's really a commercial use. That really should go somewhere else. They want to take it to the main line, donate it, but all our trips that we make, that's not the spirit I think the program started on. I could be wrong. We need to continue to separate commercial and residential. Next slide, please. We have, the gas pumps have been installed, and you'll see more, organization within contractor services with both the poles and some of the ribbons on the ground, designating spots. Once we get everything cleaned up, you'll see a lot more of this and this. And you'll see designated spots. We are getting better at giving people assigned spaces. We are doing better at tracking people that are there, that come there overnight temporarily. Fuel pumps have been working well. We have one more component that we like to install that would help on our side, and that's a patch between our bookkeeping system and the gas operation, diesel sales operation themselves. And we continue to work on that with the vendors. It's been in their hands. We don't really have any control of that patch, but once that patch comes, it will help my staff be able to do less bookwork. The reconciling will be done automatically, go straight to the program, and that will help free some time up. Next slide, please. Again, beach access for this coming year. These are the numbers: 13, 15, 20, 26, 32, 39. That approximate cost. And then we're still looking at the North Carolina Beach and Waterfront Access Grant Match, $75,000 for the total. That'll be in the budget process coming up. Any comments about the beach access points? Concerns?
And not about that, but it made me think of a question I forgot to ask earlier. I thought there was some discussion about getting some grant money for paving. Is that still an ongoing effort?
We were exploring funding and earmarks for that. We had a little bit of an update on that yesterday. But there's still some hope there because of access, I guess, use. There were some former senators talking about. Congressman, excuse me. Slide, please. And the cleaning for the pre-EQ, we've been putting it off, hopefully. That still is still on the, we've replaced all the guardrails. We've replaced everything there but the aeration. But we continually need to be aware that would like to clean out these solids. And this is grit. And if you look at it, the grit over 26, 30-year period, this has never been cleaned before, so I think we have low grit situations. So that's great.
Wow.
Next slide, please. These are our two lift station. This is a lift station for the plant itself, and then this is a distribution effluent lift station that sends stuff out to the lagoons. They are old, but they were able to keep up with the 850,000+ gallons in that one day during PTCA. They are still areas of concern that we'd like to work on that aren't right now included in the total price for the wastewater plant. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about our motor fleet. We do have our mechanic and our facilities superintendent that oversees the motor fleet management plan. These are our numbers right now. So our trucks and vans and golf carts both increased since last year. Heavy equipment number went down by about 4. The total number went up about 50 to 65. Next slide, please. Another topic that I'd like to generate some discussion about is the fence around IPC and Village Hall. So that's on our radar. We just don't have a solution right now. I was going to attempt to put that in the budget for the budget year to put a PVC fencing. Again, we could maybe get pickets close to this shape, or we could cut these ourselves and CNC router, but I guess that's a whole discussion to be had.
Did you guys already go through the conversation with the review board? And have we talked to the chapel and the,
I have not.
okay, so this is one of these, going back to communicating back and forth. The chapel and the lighthouse have the same fencing. For us to be replacing our fencing and not have them replace, all the fencing, that whole area needs to be addressed. So that'd be a conversation.
Even if it's identical picket.
I think they have an identical.
Yeah, I mean, even though we.
If we-
You're just saying for notification purposes, not
No,
necessarily.
yeah, notification, we're not gonna be doing, yes. No, but it would be a project that makes sense that it happens all at once for everybody.
It's not cheap though.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know that I think there's a notification to them that, hey, we're changing our fence. But I don't, if we elect that that's something we want to invest in, I don't think we slow down or speed up because the chapel or the lighthouse wants to do it now or wants to do it later.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is yes,
Yeah.
you're right, notification. But I think part of the notification is, we're doing our project, maybe there's some economies of scale, because I hate to tell you, you need to.
Yeah, all about that, yeah, all about that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can't strong arm them to say, you know,
No, no.
it says we don't have 10 grand to fix our fence and we're not doing it, then, you know, we roll on.
Just to remember, just to mention that we did at one point come in and trim the bottoms of these to get some more life out of them. But because the bottom, that had ground contact, a lot of them were rotted. So we came up and cut the rotted wood off, and it doesn't look any different really, right? Good, but it worked for a while. Next slide, please. Okay, public services, future projects, the 10-year capital improvement plan. That again is gonna hinge, we are doing our side of the work on public works. And AIA grant is doing the work on the utility side, and then we're gonna merge the two. So one is being paid for by the AIA grant, and then the other, we're gonna mirror with the same process. And have the same look, so we can put those two together, so the department can have a complete CIP. And then if the CIP is approved by council, that helps us with points and grants going forward. So that's where we're headed. Really, the AIA grant is driving, the timing on that. Wayfinding program, we've been using the wayfinding program that was done a number of years ago. That seems to be working. We do get comments. We try to shift gears and to address the comments as they come in. And I have said in previous meetings, if anybody has any concerns or comments about the signage, please bring them to us so we can review them and make sure that we're doing the best we can. The roll-off truck is here just because we help with the different types of hauling that we need to do, both on and off island. I didn't mention bringing stuff back, but yes, it can be used to bring rock and other materials back on the island. Right now, we do use the F-250. When we take stuff off to donations, we always bring stuff back on. So try to make sure that trip is all it can be. Fencing, grading, asphalt work, services, the contract services area is ongoing. Island-wide asphalt and the timber bridge maintenance plans are ongoing. Again, we mentioned that we do need some long-term plan for funding both of those. Stormwater containment areas, we've gotten a lot of education this year on that from some of the weather we've had, so that's been great. Timber bridge board replacements in progress. And hopefully, long-term, we can consider that in CIP funding. But beyond that, maybe some sort of continual funding source.
Remind me, I know we talked about the timber bridge stuff and we talked about that overlay that you got permission for.
Yes.
Have we budgeted for that overlay yet?
That will be in the upcoming, in the FY 26.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Wastewater, water plant redundancy programs, cleaning of the pre-Q, we showed you a picture, we could do that as we can. Planning for future odor control has been brought to us by the association. We have that plan. It's built into the lift station that is included in the wastewater treatment plant is primary main. And we have looked and considered different odor controls for that lift station. And we met most recently last week with McKinnon Creek, and they have a solution for that. It's been identified.
What is it?
It's a type of odor control. It's a charcoal vessel that absorbs the odors. And we could also look at using that closer to the wastewater treatment plant. But that will, in the primary main, before all that waste comes to the plant, that odor will be removed and hopefully a less of an impact when it gets to the plant. Wastewater collection system lift station repair continues. You could see some of the IAI data yesterday on the lift stations, which corresponds with what we're doing with our lift stations. So I was happy to see that. The last one we didn't fund, which was South Bald Head Wine, needs repair, but we have even more need at Royal James and Warning Warbler. So they're all in the same bucket, but we have them timed about the right. And South Ballhead Line won't be pushed to the end, it'll be pushed to the next phase, and then something in the next phase will be pushed down further down the line. But we are looking at that 5-year plan. If we continue with the $500,000 per year, probably gonna end up being a 6-year plan. Water distribution cross connection program we talked about. Water distribution, I talked about the new pumps. Water expansion planning, we're talking about with our engineers and hydrologists. And then motor fleet facilities, we are starting a PM program for facilities, and that's started this week. And we're tying again the vehicles to the CIP, which will have an annual report. The motor fleet schedule has a depreciation of replacement on it. We'd like to hopefully that be formalized and looked at by council, and hopefully going forward, that more of a document that helps us know what's coming, what needs to be turned over, and hand can fund that.
Okay.
I know it's a lot of information, but any questions? Next slide, please. And again, we've already had this conversation, but I put it in here to remind me about talking about the funding for the repair on Timber Bridge. You know, we have sealing and painting and sealing and staining that needs to be done on a regular basis. We've done the board replacement. We're gonna do a running surface, but we also have the under superstructure that's gonna need, it has been looked at recently, it looks good, but that's something that's gonna be needing to be looked at on a regular basis.
Now, did the running surface get approved?
We are still working with it by an engineer, but I don't have a stamp on it yet.
Okay.
JP, what are you talking about in terms of an annual set aside for the bridge?
I have to do a little bit more homework. I think so.
So I think quite a few of us are on board with the notion of let's just, have a plan to keep funding it regularly, to keep it in good shape. But I don't know I have no idea how aggressive we need to be on that.
I think the best solution for that would be to put some funds aside for an engineering firm to look at my holdup on the running surfaces to pay for that seal approval. So that's been a challenge. So if we could look at that maybe and look at some long-term planning, and Withers is our on-call, they're doing our CIP, maybe we have them take a look at it and be able to put a number together for us for that. Unless, Zach, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a good plan.
Well, I mean, we don't have to study it to death. We know the boards are 3 to 5 years, right? And you know about what that costs you to do. You could at least capitalize that, the board replacement. You gotta factor something more for the underpinning and then the surface covering, but we have some known historical run rate with doing this. It's
Except
not,
that, yeah.
it's not an unknown.
No, and the surface stuff we're gonna put on should reduce the time which the boards have to be replaced.
Yeah.
That's the idea behind
And
that.
that's HDPE, so we should get good wear out of it.
Right,
And question did come up, is it skid resistant? It is for automotive use and it is have a skid resistant surface on it.
so yes, we can do that, but with modified,
Yeah, but I mean, whether we did it or we asked Withers to do it, we're gonna get some representation of how long this
Yeah.
surface is gonna last. Just lay it out, right? I mean, again, like, they don't have some magic sauce that we don't at our own disposal of what we've been putting into it.
We've got experience.
Yeah, we've got experience. The only X factor is the new surface. And if we plan based on our experience, we'll only do better than that because
well,
the road surface will do better.
Be better, but we do have to be under.
I can bring those numbers.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just been said from time to time, it's said to me, well, you have a seal on that. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have a seal, so I don't have a seal on it, but we do know that.
I get it.
Mhm.
Next slide, please. Next slide. Here we go, Public Works. It brings up another topic, sidewalks. That's our number for sidewalks to do a large part of. We've been doing small segments of sidewalks. I think the last one was like $20,000. We did some work down in the southern living area. Concrete ramps is for the new concrete compactor. You see the roll-off containers I mentioned earlier, cardboard compactor itself. The grapple loader is a unit that can be pulled onto the back of the roll-off truck. And what a grapple unit is I call it knuckle boom. Knuckle boom would allow one of our staff members to go out the island and pull up material and collect debris. Just one person. Right now, we have a backhoe driver and a truck driver. We'll cut that in half by having a knuckle boom. And we could use that knuckle boom for other things. So we thought about doing that in 2 phases. We buy the truck and the containers 1 year, maybe a year or 2 later, we could buy the grapple loader. So like I said, it comes in 1 unit. You pull it up in the back of the roll-off truck. It's the dump container, the boom, it's all one piece. You asked about the electric truck. There's our electric extended cab truck. We do want to retire one of our tractors. We have the John Deere and the Kubota. They work really well. We want to get another John Deere.
We have a charger for an electric truck right now?
We have only chargers for our golf carts right now. We don't have any equipment.
Yeah.
They also make electric backhoes and skidders and everything else. It's another conversation. Cannon shop 50 by 80, 3 bays. The replacement fencing with plastic for Village Hall, that was a quote that we had this past year. Backhoe, stump grinder, roll-off truck itself. Stormwater retention pond. On the side of the building, the other ones have been funded, the one out in contractor services is funded. And then the balance of timber bridge replacement, timber board replacement, not only the walkways.
And JP, the sidewalk number is pretty big. Is a lot of that due to construction and renovation, or is it's just generally they're in disrepair?
Age.
Okay.
And I think there's really been major sidewalk work done since they were installed.
When contractors do damage a sidewalk somehow,
We have we've been talking, Steve and I have been talking, we have a new plan. What we do is we try to take before and after pictures. 4 pictures, just general of the site, and then we have something to measure against when they're finished. So we are gonna hold them more accountable going forward.
Okay.
Really, we hadn't done that in the past, but we're planning on doing it going forward. Any
like,
questions on this?
well, also like the roads, do you have a sidewalk schedule of repair? You know, this section is really high priority and so on.
We do, is that we don't have a formal document like the 5-year plan, but yes, we do. Next slide, please. And then contractor services, not pressing, but these are the things we identified that we need to do over there. Replacement doors eventually, replacement locks on those doors. We'd like to install a back door in the office area just for safety reasons. Parking stops to further enhance the parking area. Fuel polishing, we don't have any fuel polishing. Fuel, once it sits in the tank and comes to the pumps. Like to do that, and then golf cart parking, which it means putting an electrical source in for chargers. And then just overall site improvement materials. Miscellaneous.
So can you explain fuel polishing? What does that mean?
It means filtering, additional filtering of the fuel that comes out of those storage tanks.
Okay.
Those tanks haven't been cleaned in a long time, so what we do is we initially go in and clean them, and then we put another tertiary filtration on there, so that the filter before they go to the filters at the gas pumps themselves. Next slide, please. And then just want to make sure I didn't miss anything, so just some general topics I had here: paint, pesticide, battery, and other material drop off. We talked about that. Village Hall fence, paving, overhead cutting and sight line work is going to continue February 12th. Fitness Tree is coming back to do some more cutting for us. We're getting together with Josh to make sure that we have everything cleared for the new fire truck. So those are some of the topics we're working on. level of ongoing maintenance for ROW and roadways. There's been a lot of talk about medians and road right of ways. Right of ways for utilities we're under. We have to be compliant with what the state tells us on how we do those. Medians, roadsides are something totally different. And we're looking to the mayor. Mayor's had some thoughts on that. So we just like to be involved in those conversations to see where that goes. Also is the level of maintenance in the parks and our properties. That's ongoing. But what's happened recently is 2 years ago, mostly we had an impact because we were pulled from a lot of other areas, IPC, some other stuff, and pulled us away from some of that. We do have routines during the summer and then our fall, our winter and spring projects. But, you know, we're pulled in different directions. We're trying to silo some of those, like facilities, for instance, and getting a crew dedicated to facilities pulls away from a little bit of our landscaping crew. But we just need to do more planning, I guess, is where I'm trying to get to. Plan farther ahead so we make sure that we have either the contracts in place we need to do the work, or we can do the work ourselves.
How many employees in your department?
20, we have 25 and a half FTEs. And then Timber Bridge ongoing fund.
I had a question about, we've been talking about a couple of openings that you have. And,
I filled but one,
okay, so we still have one hanging out. Okay,
and we've interviewed and we're re-interviewing.
okay,
And I think we have the applications in, we have the ones identified, Judy, that we're gonna interview. It could be this week or next week that will be.
okay. So the two that we were talking about maybe a month ago, you already filled one and we're looking at filling another one soon.
Filled that one, and then we did a promotion and we actually filled two. In the last 6 months. We're backfilling one because we promoted someone,
Okay,
and that's already backfilled.
okay,
But we had another one come up that you weren't aware of, so we really filled two. One that you knew of, and then one that was created by a promotion.
okay, good.
Real quick on the beach access replacement program. Do we do anything to maintain, once we put a new beach access in, a year later, do we treat?
We evaluate. Mark, you want to talk a little bit about what you and John did recently and do annually?
Yes, we go out and look at each access every year. And, you know, one thing we found, like for 26, for instance, this past year, this fall, we did some work to it. It's already covered in sand.
Right.
The dunes are shifting, and so every year it kind of evolves. We have replaced pretty much all.
When it comes back, it'll be beautiful.
That's right.
I mean, dunes getting bigger is a good thing. It comes at a cost of the beach access program, but, yeah, I mean, in general, over the past 3 years, we replaced most of the boards, which is putting us in a good spot from the condition of the wood.
Right.
But as the dunes shift and other things happen,
I get that, but the boards that aren't covered in sand over time, is there something we can do? Does treatment, a treatment
it's
make sense?
in that location, it doesn't really do a whole lot for us. The treated wood that we're using, lasts pretty long.
Okay,
We're in a good spot. We've got stainless steel screws on everything now, which we didn't, just 3 years ago when I got here. I think we're in a good spot, but we're just gonna continue to fund it because of shifted dunes.
thanks,
So
sir.
again, that was one area we were trying to get to preventative maintenance
Right.
versus
Right.
catch up.
Yep.
And that's another area we feel we're caught up in.
Yep, good.
Yeah, where I was going when I was asking about, staff, at one point we were discussing, outsourcing some of the work. And I mean, we outsource most of the work done on the beach access, don't we?
Yes.
And right now, the work being done on the Commons Park, it's actually being outsourced. And going forward, some of these things, as we get them up to, here's the level we expect. We either have to grow your staff so it keeps it at that level, or set up a plan that we have,
Or
It's always
redirect the
outsourced.
priority list.
yeah.
Yes.
So,
I just need direction on it.
yeah, we just need to discuss it and what kind of implications it has with the budget or, yeah. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to bring this to you.
Great job. Thanks, John.
Thanks an awful lot.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Oh, one other thing about PFAS is we tested at the wastewater plant in the tertiary treatment area. So where the water exits the plant has been tested, and then all our taps. That's the only waste stream that we tested the wastewater on was in the tertiary treatment.
What did we get on that test? You remember the number?
5.6 PFOA and almost comparable PFOS. I can look them up. real quick.
No, that's all right. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I was just wondering what it was.
I haven't
So
read it.
is the national, I mean, was it going to be a standard?
Yeah, there's a new
We
standard.
drop into parts per million. So it was-
I'm sorry,
Right, but-
PFOS was 2.9, PFOA was 5.8.
What was the old standard and what was our reading then? What's the new
The
standard?
slide I presented, maybe last year, or one of the meetings last year was, EPA was gonna recommend 4 trillion,
Parts per trillion?
4 parts per trillion. And with a limit they would like to get to of 0
Right.
eventually.
Yes.
Now, and I could dig up that slide and present it at the next meeting, or even it's at this afternoon's meeting if you want to, or next month. But I have a slide that shows that what their recommendations were gonna be. But in short, just recently, I don't know if you've heard on the news, all the PFAS regulations.
That's
have
what I
rolled
was
back.
really asking, right? Not that,
It doesn't
makes
look
us
like
feeling better
EPA is gonna do
personally.
the enforcement.
But that 2.9 that you're quoting there, what is that?
5.8 and 2 parts per trillion.
Okay, all right, so it's 10 or 100 times, right? What the proposed EPA standard was.
Well, it was 4, so we're looking at, one is under and one's over,
I got you.
But not by a lot.
but to 0. Because eventually they wanted the goal to be 0.
Yeah. Got it.
but now, that won't happen.
No telling what's in the sediments,
No shit, right. Yep.
where the alligators live, that,
Have you done any testing from the different sources of water to know whether like aquifer water or river water?
we've done some raw water testing and we've done some tap testing. I think we've done more raw water testing, we have done tap testing, I have all that data, let's see.
Thanks, Jacob.
It is expensive. Thank you.